Perfection is the enemy of progress. We get paralyzed with this idea that we need to have all the tools and all the knowledge and a perfect plan before we execute any of our vision. It just means that many of us never execute anything. I've been fortunate to learn that it's perfectly fine to fail and make mistakes all the time. And that has given me such freedom to explore all sorts of different crafts and industries. People get even more paralyzed because of the illusions they see on social media. Oftentimes, social media builds this illusion of perfection because of how things are edited together, and you just see a really polished product. I take on a lot of projects and I make countless mistakes. I finish everything I do, but sometimes I have to redo it, and sometimes I have to fix it, and things break all the time, and I break myself all the time, and that's okay. I'm Quinn Peterson. I have many different projects and many different vehicles, but today we're here to talk about the 1971 Honda Z600. Let me be clear. I did not seek this car because it's a reflection of me and that it was an aspiration. I had never heard of this car before I got this car. I was building my dune buggy with my buddy at his shop, and a family came in and they said, hey, our dad passed away and he had a bunch of goofy cars. Do you want to come check them out? So we went down to a storage unit here in the south part of our town, and this was in the storage unit. And it had rust, and it had missing parts, and it had animals living in it, and it had been a sad, sad story. And I thought, this is such a unique vehicle, I have to have it. And so we picked it up and we brought it back to life. And now it has become a part of my identity, and my identity has become a part of this car. But it wasn't because I was seeking it out. It was because I said yes to the opportunity. They were predominantly known for making motorcycles for a long time. And they began making some cars in Japan as sort of some experiments, but their very first mass-produced car was the Honda 600. Their first exported car was the Honda 600. And you know, some purists of the Honda 600s are offended by this comment, but it's essentially a motorcycle. It's a motorcycle engine that they put into a frame. So it is a 2-cylinder air-cooled engine that is in the same case as the transmission and differential. They're all lubricated with the same oil. It is one unit that drops in and pulls out together, just like a motorcycle. It is a little different because of the differential and the way the axles connect, but they just sort of perfected a technology that they were really good at. And they put it in a car to show the world, look, we can make a car. Technically, this was the second export. The Honda 600 was the first export in 1970. And those came to the States, and that was the N600, which was the sedan. This became an option as a fun upgrade the next year. This is the Z600. And there are very, very few of these in the world today. When this car was released in Japan, it had a couple little tweaks that were different. The mirrors in Japan were up over the fenders, and I prefer that. So those were the mirrors I installed on this, not exactly original. as I was trying to find wheels and tires, the wheels for these, they're a 10-inch wheel. They're wildly rare and they're fairly expensive. I wanted to get kind of a fun pair of snow tires because it's such a tiny car. It has just a funny juxtaposition to have these big knobby tires. When I went to the tire shop, I realized that this was actually the same bolt pattern as a Honda ATV. And they bolted right up, and then I got the biggest ATV tires I could find that would fit. And then I created a little shackle extension on the rear that gave me a few more inches of clearance. But other than that, it's still original. I didn't want to make any big modifications that couldn't be undone in the future. So the interior, they were pretty rotten. I recovered everything and carpet kit to bring it back how it would have been original. I built the roof rack. The roof rack is custom that I built with my friend Tanner. So we put that together, and then I wired up some fog lights to give me some extra lighting when we're doing some gnarly stuff. It's great. It's way more peppy than most people would realize. Now, it is a 600cc engine. It's not that big, but it can go on the freeway. It's fun. It handles quite well. I put some Coney shocks on it. I've done a few other just like little things here and there that have changed the ride a little bit. When I was a little kid, I was super skinny and nothing ever fit me right. And so I learned to start sewing, and I would alter all of my clothing to fit me better. And that grew into modifying my accessories and modifying, my bedroom in high school. And I got a home and I modified that. And soon after I had modified my home, I thought, why do I keep driving a car that some manufacturer made for the masses? I would so much rather find a car that I connect with and then transform it into something that fits me, and then work with that car to mold it and modify it to better be a part of my life. I primarily work with older vehicles because I'm too stupid to work with newer vehicles. I think so many of the vehicles now have so many computers that it's just not as accessible for people to work on. So everything I've worked on is old and carbureted because it's something I can understand. Nowadays, I know that people, when they reference mechanics, there's kind of different categories. There's what mechanics call parts replacers and mechanics. But when you work on these funny old cars like this, you don't have that option. And so it becomes this process of understanding what the device does, understanding what's not working, and how you can possibly fix it. I think that a real mechanic is an artist. I'll say, when you have a car this rare, more cars and more parts find you. Having this car at a car show, anyone who's ever had one of these or heard of one of these, they come to me, they tell me, they give me their parts, they give me their stories. That's how I ended up with the other Honda 600. We have the N600 because someone at a car show had one and they couldn't get it going, and so it found its way to me. My point, I have a lot of extra parts, and I hope that I always have enough extra parts to continue rebuilding this as I break it. I really don't have interest in the lifestyle people live where they buy cars because they're rare and they're too afraid to drive them. I drive this car constantly, and so I'm gonna continue to do so as long as I can. A lot of the things I do, I had never done before. And I hope that they feel like ripping into some weird old car is not unattainable. I didn't have a dad that worked on cars. My dad's a math professor. I didn't have the community around me that raised me working on cars. I had never ripped into an engine prior to 2020. I just started working on cars in 2020. I've learned all these things, and I hope other people realize that they can do the same thing. They can just figure it out. And they're gonna make mistakes, and that's fine.